Well, what's up, folks? It is Friday Eve, Thursday night for some of you who like to tell the days of the week. It's almost a weekend. It's almost here, and we're glad to have the funniest guy on radio, at least that I believe, even funnier than the late Robin Williams. Joe DeCamara will be on with us a little bit later on. I see him inside the green room waiting patiently. As much as you guys are, we're planning to have a lot of fun with Joe. Joe, by the way, got his start, of course, over on 97.5. We won't mention the rest of the radio station, but we're glad to see him on 94 WIP, the host, along with John Ritchie of the Midday Show, which I believe, and I believe other Philadelphians believe, that it is the number one show on Philly radio today. So great job by Joe and John over there. And of course, my brother who produces the show, Jimmy Seltzer. So we'll be talking to Joe, some Eagles, some Phillies, some Sixers, also some questions on how he got started in the business, along with some Saved by the Bell trivia questions. So it's pretty much AMA with Joe, except for we get to do it to Joe, where normally Joe gets to do it to the listener. So we have an action-packed show. It's going to be jammed up, so I don't want to waste any more time. Thank you guys and girls for tuning in tonight. I'm Angel. This is Broad Street South. Also, as a quick reminder, don't forget May 18th, make that change in Philly for a Philadelphia safer city. Vote for Carlos Vega, May 18th. Let's not forget all about that. So also the other guy that I cannot do the show with, and he always loves his drum line, would be Mike Fuji. Fuji, what's going on tonight?
What's going on, Mr. Martinez? Joe DeCamara in the house, Friday Eve, 6 days away from the NFL schedule to come out. Let's get that fans of Philly Vegas trip up and running. And how's everybody doing tonight in the Delaware Valley and around the world?
Now let's hope that everybody's doing well down here in the Tampa area. It was about 94 degrees today, pretty hot, daggone humid, but it was all right because we enjoy it. And of course, we cannot do the show as well without our sports contributor, the professor, the guru, Mike Sherman. Professor, how are you this evening?
I am doing fantastic. 4 straight for the Fighting Phils, sweeping out the Milwaukee Brewers. Zach Wheeler with the complete game today. And how about the other night, my boy Vinny B getting the job done, 6 solid innings, earning him a spot in that rotation. Let's do it.
Let's do it indeed. And of course, last two guys that we need to introduce here. One is the national correspondent, Ryan Neff, with it looks like almost a little fedora here. Going back a little old school here with Ryan Neff. Ryan, how are you this evening?
Gentlemen, how's it going? Draft is over. People shouldn't be talking about football anymore until July, unless something major happens. Of course, Phillies, Sixers, big topic. Let's put the Eagles on the back burner for a while because I think everybody's sort of like
you're in one of the biggest football markets in the country, my man. That's impossible.
As soon as I start talking, these guys interrupt, and I can't get a word in edgewise. So
it's just the way it works.
Put the Eagles on the back burner for a while, my friends.
Never happened.
If we're going to keep talking football here, and of course our beat writer, Nick Lisi, down here from Clemson, who's taking a break at the moment. He'll be back next month down there at Clemson University. So, Nick, how are you this evening?
Nicky,
I'm doing great. We should keep talking Eagles. I think I read a segment on Joe DeCamara's show that they're going to get Aaron Rodgers. So, hey, maybe we should talk a little Eagles this tonight, and let's have a great show.
Well, that indeed we shall do. And of course, we have the man waiting there in the background. Again, Joe DeCamara, if you guys go to 94 WIP, it'll take you out to their main page, and you click on shows, and there you see Joe DeCamara, John Ritchie, 10 to 2 weekdays. You can follow him on Facebook, Twitter, and I believe also on Instagram, if I remember correctly. And of course, here on Twitter, you can see the men, the geniuses themselves. And without further ado, it is Mr. DeCamara. Joe, how are you? Thank you for joining the show tonight. We do appreciate it.
Hey, guys. It's great to be with you. I love your passion for Philly sports, and let's do it.
How you doing, Joe? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you coming on.
It's my pleasure. I wish I had a great background behind me like some of you guys do. All I have is a mirror and a white wall, but you guys got banners and pennants, and I'm impressed. I'm very impressed.
That's not a two-way mirror, is it?
No, it's not.
I trade places with you from 10 to 2 every day with Jimmy and John.
Well, thanks. Thanks for
You got the
listening,
life,
guys.
my man.
And thank you for the kind words. Look, we have a lot of fun with the show, and I feel fortunate to do it, and it's just great to connect with people and stay connected, obviously, during the pandemic. And it's the Philadelphia sports scene's usually pretty robust with a lot of topics and themes, and certainly lately has been no exception. I mean, frankly, it's been amped up, I'd say, a couple levels lately, and so it's fun. I think we're in a pretty fun time right now.
I think so too. And Joe, you got to look at it. I mean, we know that 2018 was a whole different season than what we've seen in the past couple seasons with the Birds, with the Phillies as well. The Phillies, ever since winning it back in 2008, I mean, they've been doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing, but I guess the rebuilding stages when it comes to the Phillies. Sixers, of course, picked up Doc Rivers, which is absolutely fantastic. And Brett Brown, I know he did everything he possibly could do in Philly. We miss Brett to a certain extent, but Doc Rivers is doing a phenomenal job. So, yeah, and the Flyers, well, I hope the Flyers would have picked up where they did last year. Not so much this year. So maybe again, come next year, maybe the Flyers can pick up where they left off in pre-2020. Who knows? But again, it's really fun to be, I think, in Philly sports radio. I think it's also a lot of fun to be a fan in Philly because as much as we hear throughout the media, oh my God, nobody wants to come to Philadelphia anymore. It used to be team or destination Philly. Now it's not. I still feel like it is. And obviously Howie Roseman, who did, I think, a pretty good job this time around compared to other times that we've seen, picking up Devontae Smith, moving up to get him. I think he did an excellent job. So we're going to get into everything around the world when it comes to everything Philadelphia. So more than anything else, I want to ask this very first question here because we see you, of course, in the Phillies lineup just about almost every year. And, of course, we talk about when you go down to Clearwater. So are you doing it again this year?
Hoping to. Trying to figure it out timing-wise, but planning to if things get aligned. But I think it's likely, but just not at the finish line yet of knowing that answer, but I think so.
Okay.
And listen, I mean, I'll tell you guys, it's a great time. Phillies Fantasy Camp's an amazing time. I'd rather you not show that photograph of me from that angle because it looks like I got two chins there. I kind of like the one chin look more than the two chin look. Phillies Fantasy Camp blast. I feel free to show that picture. I'm obviously just joking. It's a blast. I mean, you play ball for 3 or 4 days. I was getting banged up with injuries 2 years in a row, tore my groin, but what are you going to do? But it's really fun, man. I mean, you guys know what it's like to play, and you get older and you become an adult, and you really don't play much anymore, especially baseball. I mean, baseball is not an easy, basketball you can play pickup hoops, but pickup baseball, I mean, that's not really the norm, So to be able to, get into the action for a few days with Phillies Fantasy Camp was really a thrill.
No, listen, I haven't been fortunate enough to actually be part of the fantasy camp, but I am fortunate at least to be down here down at the Clearwater Thresher Stadium. I know they renamed it, and Lord knows I got to get the name of it all over again. But I'll be down there Saturday night for the first minor league game, even though they start the season off on Tuesday. I'll be down there Saturday night and at least watching some baseball until I can see the boys again come next year, hopefully, if everything goes well. So I would imagine fantasy camp, it had to be a lot of fun because you got to figure, I mean, it's something that a lot of us, as it's known as a fantasy, to have the ability to go down there and play, meet some of the, I don't know if you got to meet, I know some of the ex-players or at least former Philly players like to attend if they possibly can as far as their schedule. So I don't know, how many guys have you met that were either on the current roster or on the post roster as a Philly?
Yeah, well, the current, so fantasy camp doesn't have any of the current players. Every once in a while, if I remember, actually I was going to say see a minor leaguer, but I might be getting that confused with being down there for spring training. So, fantasy camp, I mean, it's basically the former players, and it's great access to them. I think they typically have about 20 former players. They're of, pretty high prominence. I remember 2 years ago in particular, one thing that to me stood out as such a, really cool thing was it was 10 members of the 93 Phils. So, I mean, look, you got 25 guys on a team, 93 Phils, and you got 40% of them there. That was pretty special. I mean, for me, that was my team growing up. That was my favorite team in my childhood. Honestly, I find it hard to believe there will ever be a Phillies team that I love more than the 93 Phils. So to be around those guys, and you're talking Milt and Stocker and Crucker and Danny Jackson and Tommy Green, and it's a long list, and it's great, man. Great people. Duncan, really, really, really fun times. Ricky Jordan's an awesome dude. So you're just hanging out with these guys. You're learning some baseball from them. You're talking, modern day baseball, old day baseball with them. You're just kind of living life for 3 or 4 days and playing ball. It really is an amazing experience.
I want to get to a couple of comments here that the guys end up bringing up. Bill McManus says, "What's up, guys? Can't wait for this show, the Hammer Time." Bill also says, "Was scared to death. Thought the Hammer was going to do his show from the bathtub." And
I don't want to get electrocuted. If you mix water and electricity, you could have a problem. So I just figured I'd better avoid that.
Yeah, listen,
I got a wireless computer, so I don't think I'd really get electrocuted. But you never know.
You may not. You never know. And AJ Johnson, of course, from the Rough Cut Sportscast. Those guys put on an amazing show. They'll be on at 8:30, so make sure you watch those guys as well. He says at Broad Street, Doc Rivers is killing it in Philly. That number 1 seed is so important for the Sixers. And listen, we'll see. The Nets have been, boy, oh boy, they've been a major competition threshold for the Sixers this year. And Rick says, I sure hope to hear Joe tomorrow morning, and he doesn't sleep. He doesn't oversleep. Listen, they won't.
I hope not either. Yeah, that got me in some trouble last time. I'm still trying to dig my way out of that one. Angelo's got more movies for me to watch as punishment, but you don't want to oversleep. I'll tell you that. And listen, honestly, guys, I go to sleep every night fearful of it. I'm not kidding. I mean, the whole time. I've always been someone who's just been afraid that I'll oversleep, and that was a snafu. That it was a damn cell phone reset with the freaking phone, and disabled the alarm clock. And I have since bought a second alarm clock, so I have a non-cell phone alarm clock now, which hopefully will cover me in the future. But I've always worried about that, and frankly, I think I always will.
It happens. It happens to everybody. It's the same way. I think the biggest time I ever get afraid is when we have the fall back, spring ahead, because you don't know if your phone's actually going to do it. So either you're going to show up an extra hour early to work, or you're going to be running late behind, one of the two. So, it happens. It's happened to everybody. I'm pretty sure it's not, hopefully for you, it'll be the last time, but for all of us, I'm pretty sure at one point or another, it's happened. Yeah. But Joe, the one thing, and we know for those of us, at least, who have followed you for many, many years, we know that you got your start over at 97.5. The afternoon, we would hear you many times over, and it always seemed like you were just destined for different things, and to do better. Not knocking, of course, the other station whatsoever, because we still have listeners that listen to both, to 97.5 and 94 WIP. So moving from, or at least when you got the call, almost like getting the call to the hall, in all reality, did you know who you were going to be teamed up with John Ritchie, or was it something that you weren't told prior to having your meeting over at WIP for the morning, for the midday show?
Yeah, not initially. Initially it was just about talking to WIP about who knows what would happen, and just kind of having a relationship established. And so initially, no. The answer is I absolutely did not know. The first time I met John, we had agreed to do the show, so we agreed to do it. I agreed, he agreed, independent of having met each other, because we hadn't yet. And we met. Spike Eskin and I drove about 2 hours west, which is where John was living at the time, and we had a lunch out there. And I'll tell you, and I've talked about this on the air many times, that lunch, especially the first half hour, I was thinking, oh my God, what have I got myself into? Because all Richie would do was talk about the pizza we were eating. And it's like, it's good pizza. I enjoy good pizza too, but let's talk about us and each other and the show and what's going to happen and how are you and how's life, and tell me about your family. And, I know you're a fullback, but what else is going on? And it was bizarre. And, and that's the way John can be. I mean, John can get in this, I don't want to say tunnel. I don't mean that in a negative way, but he can get engrossed. No, and he was certainly engrossed in his pizza. And so we've had some laughs about that since then, but it's really been it's been great working with him. I love doing the show with John. I love being at WIP, and obviously hoping to do it for hopefully many years to come.
Well, there's a throwback show that I'm going to put on later on. A national correspondent there, Ryan Neff, he brought it up. It was a good segment between you and John. So we're going to bring that up just a little bit earlier when we get into some Eagles talk. Great debate. I'll just put it that way so you kind of know where it's going. But it had to deal with Carson Wentz and just a particular day. Maybe you just got fed up a little bit, but we're going to have that on. It was a great one. And for anyone who missed it, you guys are going to absolutely love it because I think it's probably the first time in a long time I heard anything explosive when it came from Joe DeCamara. And it was just, it was great. I will say that much. And we look forward to it again. Another Eagles season. We know that you and John love to get into it, but it's so great though, because you guys truthfully, and again, I don't say this like I tell my other guests just because you guys are on. I dare for anyone to say there's a show better than the Midday Show at 94 WIP. And I say it to Jimmy like all the time. What you guys end up doing and how well you guys sound together, how you guys work together, it's almost like you guys have been on for 15 years at the same station, even though you haven't been on there that long. But kudos to you guys because you guys are every single day. There's even during the pandemic, you got to figure you guys had to come up with material during the pandemic because there was no sports whatsoever. You guys knocked out the park. So kudos to you and John for sure.
Thank you.
Just the way he was smiling just a little bit before, he already knows where this is going. He already knows where this is going.
No, I actually
Oh,
don't.
no? Oh, okay.
No, I thought earlier you were talking about Carson, but no, look, guys, I appreciate the kind words, Angel. I really do. And, I think, look, I've been at this for a while, and so I've been fortunate enough to kind of develop in the industry a little bit. And having grown up here, I think certainly gives me an advantage, I would say, compared to anyone who hasn't grown up here. Obviously, most of us have around here, and so it's just really easy and sort of natural for me to talk about the teams that I grew up as a fan of and still am a fan of. I think some talk show hosts when they get on the air, they feel that they need to sort of disassociate themselves from being a fan, and that's just not me. That's not the way I'm wired. I mean, if I didn't express my fandom, then I'd be a lesser host, and I just wouldn't be genuine to my reality. I mean, the reality is that these are the teams I love, and so I'm going to celebrate when they do good. I'm going to lament when they do bad, and we're going to talk about everything in between, and that's what we do. And I feel fortunate that there's no doubt, and a big credit to Spike Eskin for. I think he had a vision, and I don't know how he saw it, but that John and I think differently, which obviously we do. I mean, there's some things we are very aligned with. There's some things we think very differently about, and I do think it's kind of created a neat dynamic. So every day it's nice to go in and just kind of let it fly on any number of issues. And John has really become incredibly well-rounded on sports. He initially came in obviously expertise heavily in football and still is, but man, he has really picked up some of the other sports that he wasn't as sharp on initially. And he's an unbelievable talk show host. He really is.
No, that is true. I mean, we hear it, and I'm fortunate because even though I'm down here in Tampa, but I'm able to. Well, now it's Audacity, if I remember correctly, the app is switched over from radio.com. But I'm fortunate to at least to be able to at work when I can put on that one Bluetooth in one ear and listen to what my coworkers are talking about in the other ear. But it's amazing how John has come around like full circle from all the different venues as far as what goes on in Philly. The funny part is whenever he talks about either bands or something else or movies, when you guys get into that, and it's surprising sometimes to hear the movies that you don't know that all of us have seen, and it's like, how did Joe not know that movie? So to me, that it's always a fun part. But that's what makes a great show. And honest to God, it's what it does. And that's why I say, listen, again, I think it's one of the better shows that's out there in Philly market. So there's a couple of comments I want to read, but there's also one more thing that I want to say before I switch over to my guys. The Digital Underground, if I remember the name of the place correctly down there in Philly, right in Center City, there was, if you remember the talent show, first annual talent show you guys had. So I met
and only. There was no second.
That's true too. That's true too. But I remember that night I met you and John, and John, you're correct. As far as when he gets to talking to you, he will like zone you in exactly what either the question that you had or the topic that he's talking about. But I do remember that night when you guys were up on stage and then you came down, there was the Papa Shot. I was just telling Nick, our beat writer, and it was funny to watch you with your shoes, your khakis, and your shirt just take these guys on like it was no big deal. And even though you could have turned around and said, okay, who's next? Like you didn't, but it was just funny to watch you school these guys on a Papa Shot with shoes on. I just thought that was incredible as well. But I ended up talking to you that night. We had a pretty good conversation for about a good quick 5 minutes, as obviously everybody wanted to talk to you. But that was a great night. It was a fun talent show, and I remember it was a comedian that was pretty good, and I believe one of the guys that rapped as well that evening. But it was a good show overall for the talent that came out. It turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah, no, it was fun, and that was a point for us. We were trying to find our legs as a show and sort of connect with people, and talent show seemed like a neat way to kind of try something different, and it was fun. That was a great venue that night. We had a nice turnout, great people, man. I mean, Angel, yourself, and others, and to me, that's so much of what a lot of this is about, which is just connecting with people, getting to know people on a personal level. I think that, one of the things, we have a lot of repeat callers. Obviously, we have new callers, probably every day, I would think. But we also have a lot of repeat callers. And so you sort of establish a connection with the callers and a relationship. And I think by way of that, I think, I can't prove this, but I think it kind of creates a little bit of a relationship with the audience, because I would sense that the audience, I know this having grown up listening myself, as a child. The audience can come to sort of expect certain things based on what they've heard before. So I think a combination of things that people can rely on, but also spontaneity and unexpected new developments, can create a dynamic with a show that hopefully can be good and successful. And that's what we try to do.
Right. Well, again, keep it up, man, because it is absolutely fantastic.
I really do. I really, really appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome. I want to get back to a couple again before we move on to my other guys here. Dougie says that he has a question for you. If everyone knows when camp starts, and if they're going to allow people to go there, and if I guess if everyone can go together, or if it's going to be separate, because I know we're trying to do this vaccine, non-vaccine thing. So, Joe, I don't know if you've heard anything as far as from the Eagles camp, what they're planning on doing.
No, I don't know. I mean, I think that aside from before camp, you got to figure out if there's going to be OTAs. I don't even know if that's decided. I know the players don't want to do the voluntary ones, so I guess there won't be voluntary ones, because most of the teams in the league, including the Eagles, have said they're not going to do it. So I guess that's that. So I suppose in the summer, all you're going to have, prior to training camp, all you're going to have is the one mandatory camp, which I believe is 3 days, maybe it's 4. I think that's sometime in June. And then you're going to get to training camp, I guess, late July. I don't know. Guys, I don't even know if we're going to have preseason games. I would tend to think we will, but, you can make the case that they don't have to happen. So I guess we're gonna know more in the coming weeks. But I would tend to think that we'll have preseason games. Look, I'll tell you one thing. I'm hoping we have preseason games. And I say this independent of the pandemic. What I mean is, I found last year the build up to the season lacked a certain juice, in large part. Look, society was down, and to a certain extent still is. But it wasn't just that. Not having preseason games, I thought, stripped away sort of awareness about the Eagles. I remember last year, the week before the season, like 5 days before the season, 4 days before the season, a lot of us, myself, I think a lot of us were like, I can't believe the Eagles start in 2 days. I can't believe the Eagles play tomorrow, because we hadn't even seen them in a preseason game. So I really hope we have the preseason games. I know from a sports talk radio standpoint, I really enjoy them. I've for years, like many, kind of signaled, hey, these games are so stupid. The guys don't play. What's the point? But then in the absence of them, I really felt the absence of them. I felt like we lost out on the chance to evaluate rookies, the chance to see starters for a quarter. I didn't like it. I look forward to when preseason games are back.
Well, you're right, because last year's Eagles rookies are going to be rookies in training camp, because, as you said, there are no mini camps, no OTAs, and no preseason at all.
And think of it this way. So, like, the preseason games, that's how we knew, as of, for instance, and you got to go back to, I think it's 2017, the year the Eagles won the title. That's how we knew Donnell Pumphrey stunk. Most people aren't at training camp. And even if you're at training camp, how much can you really see? They're not hitting anything. Like, how do you know Donnell Pumphrey stinks? But I just remember the first preseason game that he played that year, it was so obvious right away, like, oh, this guy can't play. So I just hope we get back to that point where you can make those evaluations.
Hey, but Joe, how many? See, I'm on the flip side. I could never stand preseason games.
Yep.
And these guys and I have had discussions about. I always felt like you should put like two preseason games away for the starters that are going to start. Let them get the feel for one another. Let them play full games, and then maybe the other 2 games are for the rookies to evaluate, and maybe you can plug some starters in and see how they look. But now with the 17th game, it's just too damn long for some of these guys. And you know what will happen with the 17th game, Joe, and I've said this before, just like with college, damn well, other than the bye week, there are guys that are going to come up with phantom crap so that they don't have to play another game. I know some people don't believe that, but it does happen in college, and I think it's going to happen in the NFL. So how many preseason games are too much and how is too little?
Well, let's look. To me, 2 or 3 preseason games is the way to go. So I'll start with that. I don't know if it's the right number is 2 or 3, but I would say 2 or 3. I think regarding the 17th game, look, I worry about football as it relates to basketball and guys now, obviously just choosing to sit out. It's really not part of the code of pro football to this point. You're right. It could become the code. I hope not. I don't fear that happening soon. I really don't. What I do have concerns about soon is I think, the more games you have, it's just mathematically what it is, the greater the likelihood that at the end of the season you'll have a team that rests players. So I don't foresee, like if you're talking about, hey, it's week 6 and a star quarterback doesn't want to play because he's ticked off that there's 17 games in the season, he's not going to play. Like I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think that, take the 04 Eagles as an example. They're 13-1. They shut it down for the final 2 weeks. They lose both those games. Obviously, we all know they could have won both those games. They lose them. Didn't really matter. T.O. had gotten hurt versus Dallas, the 15th week, the 14th game. So Andy's like, all right, the heck with it. We're shutting it all down, which I do think was the right decision. But now, if something like that happens, if you've clinched, are you really shutting it down for 3 weeks? And if you're shutting it down for 3 weeks, and that's going to happen sometimes. There's some, there are times where a team, you can see that they're headed that way already sometimes. And so if you shut it down for 3 weeks and you get the bye, now you're talking about basically not playing a game for 5 weeks, which is a month. And now you really have a situation like college football where, the guys have to, the real players have to stay active somehow, some way without a game, like a bowl game. So I don't like it. And look, guys, I don't really care much about. I don't personally care about the implications for fantasy football. I know there's some people that will. I think it's going to create an odd dynamic if teams are shutting down players and the second to last week of the season becomes a fantasy football championship week. I don't know, but that's not really the league's concern, I don't think. But to me, look, guys, let's just be real. All the 17th game was a money grab. There's 3 entities in sports. There's the owners, there's the players, and there's the fans. And as always happens, the money that gets generated gets divided up between the owners and the players, and the fans get nothing out of it. You can convince me that 17 games is a great move if you said that season ticket prices get lowered and people that are putting freaking hard-earned money on the table to support multi-millionaire athletes, some of whom make $100 million. Let's say, okay, 17 games, but Frank and Sam and Sue's ticket price just came down and T-shirt price came down. Well, you guys know the deal. That never happens. So the pot of money split up between the players and the owners, and all it was a money grab. That's all it is. And that disappoints me because it's not about the product. It's really not. It's just not. It's about money. That's all it is.
Well, just the way you're saying about the owners and the players, the money coming from the networks too. And I think they said
that's my point. No matter where it comes from, and the networks is the primary generator of the money, giver of the money. But the tickets and the concessions and the parking is chump change compared to a whole extra week of CBS and Fox and NBC. So yeah, it's just it raises extra billions of dollars, and so it's just I guess I get annoyed sometimes when the commissioner will talk about we're doing this for X, Y, and Z reason, and he'll state like it's good for the growth of the game, but it's like, but that's not why you're doing it. You're just doing it to make money and divide it up. That's the only reason you're doing it.
Does the
I mean, it's a-
17th game make any sense to you? Because I know it doesn't to me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, guys, I apply the cookie rule to it, and this has been my theory for years. So the first cookie's tremendous. I mean, it's the first cookie, and then you get to the third cookie, and you're still going pretty strong. You get to the fifth cookie, you're like, you know what? I do love this brand of cookie, but I've had 4 of them now. I'm going to keep going here. I like this cookie, but all right, now I'm on to cookie 6. At some point, you get to like cookie 8 or 9, and you're like, I can't have another cookie. Now it's the same product. It's the first cookie, but at some point you get tired of it. I'm not saying that that's going to happen to football with 17. I don't think 17 as opposed to 16 is like that big a difference. And it's not like our stomach where we actually get full of cookies. But what I am saying is sometimes more of something good isn't better. And in my opinion, I don't think the NFL product will be better with 17 games. It's more, but I don't think it means it's better. And I do think it's rough on the players, their bodies. And obviously all the NFL did here was divide and conquer the union because they put a package on the table that the lower earning NFL players, and most NFL players are lower earning players. I mean, for all the Aaron Rodgers, you got a lot of guys that are, the bottom end of the roster, making less than $1 million. They know they're only going to be in the league for 2 or 3 years, if not their only year. And so if you put that package of expansion as the NFL did last year in front of all those guys and say, hey, you get a whole extra week of paycheck. By the way, it's even more than an extra week of paycheck because the lower end guys came up more than the top end guys came up with the 17th game. The whole thing was a sham. They divided the union and they conquered it. And it was a brilliant strategy by the league, but I just found it kind of disingenuous.
Like you said, the guys on the bottom, even like the practice squad guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about it. The practice squad guy gets the same vote as Aaron Rodgers. Now, the practice squad guy probably is going to be on the practice squad during the game. The practice squad guy that voted for that, a bunch of them won't even be in the league in 2021. They're going to be out of the league. They got to vote, but they're going to be out of the league. They're never going to play in the league again. Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, who has 15, 17 years to go in his career, he's the one that has to play 17, extra games over the next 17 years. And I just thought it was kind of stupid.
Well, Joe, let me ask you this. You touched a little bit about Aaron Rodgers. What are your thoughts on NFL starting to come more like the NBA in terms of player empowerment?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I mean, as a fan, I'm not a fan of players not wanting to hold up their end of the bargain with the deals they've signed. Now, look, I get it. Leverage is leverage and power is power, and people have been using leverage and power in all walks of life as long as we've been alive and longer. So I understand why it happens. But, I think a lot of these NFL players will find that they don't hold the same leverage as NBA players. And that's largely because, NBA players, at a basic level, all an NBA player that's an annoyed NBA player, all he really has to do is find one guy in the league to team up with. Whether it's go to a guy's team or meet up at a team with someone coming from over here and you're coming from here and, hey, let's go to that team and meet up. And, you can quickly turn around the fortunes of a team, but I don't think they care about turning around the fortunes of a team. All they care about is making it easier on themselves to compete for a championship. And, that's respectable, but the way they get there, I don't find particularly respectable. So, I think that the NFL 53-man roster, 22 starters, I just don't think it'll lead to the same sort of player movement. So I worry about it, but I don't think it'll have as dramatic an influence in pro football as it has in pro basketball.
Seemed like it last year when everybody flocked to Tampa Bay when Brady went there.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, and Richie would talk about that. Like he would refer to them as a super team. It's not a super team. I mean, Gronk was in his 30s. I mean, Gronk wasn't even making that much money. I guess my point is, in the NBA, you can go over the cap and all that sort of stuff, and it really only takes 2 or 3 players. LeBron and Anthony Davis are a clear example. Football, with the cap, the nature of how it is, like there's never going to be a scenario where. Let me put it this way: if Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Donald, and who's the best running back in football right now?
Derrick Henry.
Henry.
Yeah, whoever you want to put. The guy in New Orleans, McCaffrey,
Kamara.
Ezekiel Elliott, whoever. Like, if they wanted to team up together, first off, it's almost impossible to configure that.
Right.
But additionally, then you're just going to take such an enormous chunk of your salary cap. And when that's 3 players where 22 guys have to start, that's not going to create the advantage like in the NBA where it's 2 or 3 players where only 5 guys start. So
Exactly.
I don't think it'll have the same impact in pro football as pro hoops.
Okay.
There's a couple comments here I want to get back to, and these comments are also brought to you by, and Joe hit the word here a little bit earlier. We said champion when we referred back to the Eagles 2018 season. And speaking of champions, if you want to travel like a champion, go to fansaphilly.com, fansaphilly.com. If you guys want to go to Vegas, Denver, out to Atlanta, travel with our sponsor, the official sponsor of Broad Street South, fansaphilly.com, and travel like a champion. Also, you can call Joe at 610-517-7171, 610-517-7171. So go to fansaphilly.com. You can also go through our website at broadstreetsouth.com. So a couple of comments here that I want to get to. You're talking about basketball, and I did see one that's coming up here by Bill McManus. And he says, Hammer, why do you think the Nets are going to the finals? These guys haven't gelled, and they may not make it past the Bucks.
Look, it's a great question because I've been pretty clear the whole time about it that I think they'll make it, the Nets. And the reason is just offensive firepower. I mean, I don't know how to say it any more succinctly than that. I think the offensive brilliance of those 3 players in a playoff series will overpower the Sixers. I don't mean overpower in a way that they dominate the Sixers and sweep the Sixers, but I think they will beat the Sixers. I do recognize the fact that the Sixers' home court advantage is a – it's a significant factor, especially if you get to late June when that series is going to get played. And I don't know, 10,000 people at the Wells Fargo Center, 15,000. I don't know, but you're going to have more than you have right now. I'm excited about that. Maybe it won't be as high as 15, but you guys know what I mean. It'll be increased. I think that the fact that the Nets haven't played together is a great thing for the Sixers. I mean, those guys have only played 7 games together. We were talking today on the show about how, LeBron and Wade and Bosh hadn't quite, clicked year one. They did make the finals, and they played 82 games together. I mean, I don't know if it was actually 82 games, but they played the bulk of a regular season game, season together, and then, through the playoffs. But, you could see in that series with the Mavs, they weren't totally clicking on all cylinders, primarily because of LeBron at that point. And
Sure.
I totally hold out hope that Brooklyn not having played much together could be the difference to get the Sixers to the finals. But I just, honestly would say that, my money would be on Brooklyn's firepower to outgun the Sixers.
Joe, when you touch on the Brooklyn Nets not playing, the big 3 not playing together, really, if you look at the Sixers starting 5 with all the injuries, the past couple months, I think it's only been like close to 30 games that the starting 5 have really played together too. It's in that 30-game range or something. It was recently.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that low. I would have guessed 45 or something, but you could totally be right. And but I do think they've been around each other the whole year. But I get your point. I mean, but to me, I guess part of why I think it is an advantage for the Sixers in particular is with Brooklyn, you're talking about 3 alpha males. I mean, the reality is Danny Green, whether he's played 50 games with Joel Embiid or 80 games with Joel Embiid, Danny Green knows his role. Go stand in the corner and wait for the ball to get passed him. Like, okay, when you got 3 guys like Harden, Durant, and Kyrie, I think there's a cohesiveness that they would like to achieve based on ball dominance that's a little trickier. So I do think it's pretty significant. But they're going to have 2 rounds in the playoffs to gear up for the Sixers. I mean, they really honestly don't even have to play whichever of them they don't want to play in the first round. They'll beat whoever they play as the 7 seed, a 2-7 matchup. And, but they'll get – I mean, look, it's tremendous for the Sixers, guys, that they're going to be the 1 seed and not have to play Milwaukee in the second round. That is fantastic. I mean, I expect the Sixers to dispatch the Knicks or whichever team they play in basically 5 games. You could even have a scenario where if the Sixers are up 3-0 in the second round, if they wanted to sit Embiid, if they thought it would be a wise course of action, you actually could. I mean, if you're up 3-0, probably doesn't matter much. You might lose game 4, come back game 5 and take care of business. So I love the fact that, Brooklyn should get pushed by Milwaukee a little bit there. I think that's fantastic. And by the way, I don't know if you guys have noticed or just kind of looked at it or thought of it off the top of your head, but I hadn't even thought of it in these terms until about a week ago, and I was going through my mind. I said it on the show. I'm like, oh my God. The Sixers, they're definitely going to the Eastern Conference Finals, getting the 1 seed. There's no doubt. They've only been in the Eastern Conference Finals one time since they made it in '85.
Right.
And that, of course, was 2001 when they made the finals. But it just goes to show how, frankly, lame the Sixers have been for most of the last 35 years. That they've only made – I mean, think how many times the Eagles have made that round: 01, 02, 03, 04, 08, and 17. That's 6 times. The Sixers have made it one time since '85. Come on.
Well, I got a two-parter for you here, and sometimes my bluntness gets me in trouble sometimes. But so, do you think that they should both keep Simmons and Embiid? Because there's times where it doesn't work. And the second part is, what do you think about Embiid in general? Because there's a lot of times where I just feel like he really isn't a team player at heart. He just seems selfish a lot of times about himself, and I don't know what other Sixers fans think, but I have this argument with my Sixer friends all the time. It's like it looks like he can do the right thing when it comes to the team, but there's other times where he gets asked questions, I am the MVP, and it's always I that comes out of his mouth most of the time. And I just wanted to get your take on it.
Yeah, I'm not bothered by it with Joel. I'm really not. If he played a selfish brand of basketball on the court, then I would say that your theory, holds more weight with me. Look, I think the guy, what I see out there is he's totally into the team with how he plays ball. I think one critical thing here is he really wants to lead the Sixers. I mean, I'm really impressed with the ownership I find that he places the franchise on his shoulders. I think it's really impressive. I think there's some athletes, we touched on a little bit with some athletes that, run from the responsibility of kind of anchoring in. And Embiid seems anchored in. I mean, we're going to have to re-sign him in a couple of years, and hopefully they can do that. But I worried more, not about what you're talking about per se, but the last couple of years, I worried about Embiid sort of having misplaced, beyond sort of the immaturity and is he truly in shape for the playoffs? And that was a huge thing. But I worried also a lot about has he thought that he's arrived before he's truly arrived? And what that, the reality is Joel Embiid has played the Boston Celtics twice in the playoffs, and the Celtics have won 8 games and Joel Embiid has won 1 game. Like, that's not so good. So I want him to burn with that, and I think a lot of times you get, the modern athletes and they feel a sense of entitlement based on, look, guys, if we had a $150 million contract that was guaranteed, we'd probably feel pretty entitled too. I feel like Embiid has toned down his rhetoric a pretty good amount this year. So I really don't worry about what you're talking about there. I really don't. As far as Ben and Joel, look, you got to run through this playoff and then reevaluate, because obviously you can't trade Ben now. I would tend to think that a trade of Ben will probably ultimately be the best thing for the Sixers. But I also recognize that, that's not so easy to do. I mean, when you trade I won't even call Ben like a real star, because I don't think he's a real star. I mean, he's a star in name, but I don't think he's got that level of impact. He's very good, but not that level of impact. It's just not easy sometimes. I mean, it's easy to say, like trade Ben Simmons for Devin Booker. Okay, great. Trade him for Donovan Mitchell. Cool. But if the other team doesn't say yes, and once you go through those 5 or 6 names, Donovan Mitchell, Tatum in theory, if you wanted to say that, Bradley Beal, like once you rifle through those 5 or 6 names, if the other team has said no, then it's like, well, then what are you going to do? Are you going to trade them for parts, or are you going to So I think it's still to be determined for next season, obviously in large part how the playoffs go. Whether you trade him for one guy that's like, this is your guy you're trading him for, or you traded him for parts, which I don't find particularly appealing.
Right.
And the thing to me about parts is the NBA doesn't lend itself to that too effectively. I mean, when you trade the perceived best player, it usually doesn't work out for you. Obviously, like for instance, it worked out phenomenal for the Flyers in '95 when they traded the perceived best player, Mark Recchi, for Leclerc and Desjardins. Like that was, okay, we're trading the better player for two lesser players. And it just so happened Leclerc completely took off and Desjardins was a stud defenseman for a decade. So like that one totally worked out. But in the NBA, I don't think there's a ton of history of trading the better player for two or three players and having it work out too good for a team. And that's the trick. Can the Sixers, if they need to pull it off, can they? And that's not easy to do. Then there's the, just sort of go in a totally different direction. Like, for instance, and this is before I was born, but my brothers had told me, like, when Doc and McGinnis weren't totally gelled, because they were both, ball dominant players, and the Sixers traded McGinnis for Bobby Jones. And obviously that created far better balance for the Sixers because Doc could do the scoring and Bobby Jones could D out the best, offensive player on the other team. So I don't, it's going to be interesting to see how the Sixers manage it. I just think that it's a conversation we'll probably be reevaluating when the Sixers are eliminated by Brooklyn, honestly.
No, I agree. And there's a couple comments here that I want to get to before we
Sorry for
get
the long
over to
answers, guys. By the way, you guys ask me questions. I get going sometimes. I can try to shorten it up.
No, you're
good.
fine. You're fine, Joe. No problem.
Appreciate you coming on.
Just wait till you get the one above me going. You're nothing. You're nothing.
So Mike Klein, who's the owner of Philly to the South, he says, greetings from Tampa, Philly to the South. Go Eagles. I try to listen to the guys every day. Mike Klein Group, by the way, Joe, just to let you know. So if you ever come down to Tampa and you go to Tampa Joe's, it's a bar restaurant out right by the airport, like 5 minutes away from the airport. The biggest Eagles fan base that you will find down here down south. Kind of hint the name of Broad Street South as far as the show.
Cool. So, very nice, man. Well, I've been to an Eagles bar in LA. Great place called the Shack, and I think I've been to some pretty Philly-centric bars in New York, but never in Florida. So that'll be, other than the Tiki Bar, the Phil's facility, obviously.
Yeah, no, it gets packed. It's a lot of fun, and it's everyone who was from the Delaware Valley. So, and even some people who were born down here in Florida, which we were kind of amazed are Eagles fans. Go figure. Because again, the Bucks, yeah, they did it, but whatever. So Rick says, hard to believe that Eskin is 70 years old. Thank goodness for Audacity available in Tampa. Listen every day before work. If ever flying Southwest to Tampa, say hello. So, and Rick, a huge fan of the show. Ducky came back. Nope, sorry, not Ducky. There was one more that I did see. Thomas, where are you, buddy? He said, hi, guys. Oh, here it is. He says, I'd like to thank you, Joe, for getting me through my mornings and afternoons.
Well, my pleasure, man. Thanks for listening. And, major thanks to everyone that stayed with us through the pandemic. I mean that. I really, really genuinely mean that because, we needed each other at that time in particular, those 4 months, no sports. It was definitely a challenge to kind of, keep the conversation moving with no games. And it was just a really unique time. And I felt a real connection with people that would call, people that would tweet, and just knowing that people were listening. It meant a lot to me.
Well, I'm pretty sure everybody does. It's the same way too. We appreciate you guys. I mean, I know, we can do it as far as us right here on this show for fun, and we try to do the best we possibly can. But it's different when you guys are getting paid for it. Obviously, it's your full-time job. And I couldn't even imagine trying to come up with stories during that pandemic because, again, when there's no sports, it's like, okay, what can you do next? What can we talk about next? You guys did an amazing job. So believe me, don't sell yourself short too, because as much as we had fun listening to you guys, it's full circle. But as far as Fuji, Fuji is, and I'm going to get to your throwback radio here. Fuji is a humongous fan of Howie. So if you ever run into Howie, tell Howie that Fuji, that's his number one fan. And I say that in jest because he is not a Howie lover whatsoever. But
I will try to remember that if I see Howie.
Sure. But here's the one that Ryan was talking about earlier. So hopefully everybody will hear this. I'm pretty sure I got the volume up. Here's his throwback call.
Carson Wentz is not good.
Okay.
He's not good.
Okay, what do you say to the fact that we have seen Carson be good before?
What do you say to it?
Doug has ruined Carson.
I don't buy that.
Why is it that Doug gets off the hook? He's the offensive coordinator.
I just
Last
don't buy
night,
it.
we faced the worst rush defense that's probably ever taken the field in the NFL. We were running the ball for 10 yards a clip to start the game, yet somehow we got away from the run.
There's no doubt
That's on Doug.
There's no doubt about
Doug
that.
is the guy calling the plays. Doug is the guy in charge of what plays are in the game plan. What about the fact that the Cowboys defense was the first team in the history of the NFL to give up 20-plus points in the first half in 6 straight games, and we scored 7?
It's the quarterback.
What about the fact?
quarterback?
What about the fact that defense this season was giving up 35 points a game, and our offense scored 15 on them? He's the offensive coordinator. Yes, he's in charge of those plays being run on the field. He's in charge of the quarterback who just showed us again how abysmal he has become. Doug is in charge of that outfit. Not just the team, but the offense. That's his focus. We don't have an offensive coordinator. They set it up for Doug to basically hang himself this year as the guy. And we said this, and you acknowledged this, Joe. You said, well, we're going to see if Doug sinks or swims, right? As the offensive coordinator. What do you have to say for that now?
Is he
sinking or is he swimming?
John, if he had a real quarterback, they probably would have scored 30 last night.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. I bring
it's his job to make that quarterback real.
It's ultimately how his
and
job
that
to
quarterback,
get a new quarterback
has proven in the past that he can be quarterback.
You know what?
So what happened there? He just forgot?
John, he's
now
listen,
not
hold on. No.
He's now not good in his zone.
Everybody listening. Carson stinks.
Joe, I'm not.
All right, hold on.
Denying
I got to get this off my chest. Everybody listen to me. Carson Wentz is horrible. He is a terrible starting quarterback in the NFL. I cannot take this anymore.
Yes.
The guy stinks.
No kidding.
All right, he's horrible.
Do you think that's news to anyone? Do you think that's
apparently
news to me?
It is to you, John, because you're going on this Doug rant. Give Doug a real quarterback and see what happens.
Yeah,
Carson
Doug, a real quarterback.
stinks.
What's he doing with Jalen Hurts?
He's getting him ready.
Doug doing?
He's developing him. I don't know if Hurts is going to be any good or not.
You have faith that Doug can develop a quarterback now? I've seen Doug destroy a quarterback.
I told you after the second game this year that Carson was not going to be the quarterback in 2022. And a lot of people thought I was crazy, and that's fine. You can have whatever opinion you want. Carson is not going to be the quarterback in 2022. He might not even be the quarterback week 16 this year if they actually have a shot, which they're going to. This is insane how bad he's been. It is insane.
It's insane that you somehow have blinders on that absolve Doug of any culpability here.
Listen, man, I will listen to everyone. I'll just put it that way. But I had to get it off my chest. I cannot take it anymore.
Now I have a question for you because I told these guys about that because I remember the day that it happened. Now I was in sports radio about 21 years ago, and this is the question I wanted to. 21 years ago, you couldn't do that, Joe. You could not do that. You had to be a little bit more. But now, because everything has changed, was that the fan coming out, or was that a combination of radio personality fan? Because I know these are the kind of conversations that I have with my friends at the bar. That's what it sounded like to me. 2 guys sitting at the bar having a drink, just talking football.
So that was 2 different things. That was both of which were totally genuine, by the way. Number one, my absolute utter. I'm going to give you 3 things. It was 3 things. Number one, my absolute aggravation and frustration with watching Carson play football in 2020. I think we were roughly halfway through the season at that point. I don't remember exactly what week. I couldn't take it anymore. I mean, it was. I'd rather get a root canal. I mean, the Eagles' offense was pathetic, and the single biggest reason was because of Carson. I couldn't take it. That was number one. Number two was because that particular day, and you kind of heard it there in that clip, and believe me, there was stuff prior to that clip. John just was not letting me talk. And it's like I'm like, I got to get this off my chest. And I wasn't even planning on doing that. Like, I just wanted to express my aggravation and watching Carson play, and he kept interrupting me. and I also thought his logic was flawed. Like, he's doing this whole Doug thing, and it's like, well, yeah, I mean, maybe Doug's taking some steps back, but can we acknowledge that Carson's horrible? And he seemed to not really go there. At one point I said Carson stinks, and he said we all know that, but I don't think he did know that. See, that was my point. I don't think he actually did know that. So the reason I erupted, honestly, was primarily out of my own frustration that I just wasn't being allowed to just talk without being interrupted. And I love John, but you guys know what I mean. Sometimes you're just in a discussion and the other guy doesn't let you talk. So I was so freaking mad. The third point, and this ties it all together, and John exemplified some of this in that sequence there. I was sick and tired of people not understanding what their eyes were telling them. I mean, I've never seen an athlete play worse, and for a good long stretch of a season, half the year, whatever it was, there were like hundreds of thousands or millions of people that were acting like it wasn't his fault. And I'm like, guys, I understand there's other stuff going on here that's bad. I understand that offensive linemen have gotten injured. I understand that, Doug's offense looks stale. I understand that the wide receivers aren't great. I'm not like pushing that aside like it's not a factor. But if you're not willing to admit that Carson is inaccurate, has terrible footwork, is holding onto the ball leading to sacks, is holding onto the ball leading to fumbles, gives vacant answers in post-game press conferences that mean absolutely nothing and signify no sense of culpability or an understanding of how to diagnose the problem and find his way out of the maze. Like, if you don't understand the reality of what's going on, and I think a lot of people didn't understand it, I couldn't take people not understanding it anymore. I just couldn't take it. So that's what that was.
Well, that was a mixture. 2020 was just a damn dumpster fire from.
It was awful.
When they were up 17-0 to Washington, it was over.
See, and that's the way that I wish a lot of other people who have sports radio shows, especially in their hometown, and they grew up rooting for them, that's the way sports radio should be sometimes. Because that's the way a lot of fans are, Joe, and you know what I'm talking about.
I do. I mean, moments like that definitely don't come along too often. And I think if they do, then I think you need to seek some help. Because if you get mad like that every day, you probably got a problem. But sometimes that just comes out of you, and that explosion, man, I couldn't take it anymore. And honestly, it felt good to get it off my chest. It just did.
Yeah.
I will say because it's the first time before we switch gears to the baseball and before Fuji gets back to his question, it's never been done in the show before. But I think personally, Joe deserves a standing ovation only because that's the way we felt as fans. So Joe, listen, this one definitely is for you. I think you did a fantastic job. Call me nuts, but it felt fantastic with that rant. So that was absolutely phenomenal.
Well, thank you. Look, let me just say this about Carson. I think he'll be better, and I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate the kind words. I think he'll be better in Indy. I don't think he'll be like way better, but I think he'll settle down a little bit and probably revert back toward an average range, maybe a little below average, maybe a little above average, but average-ish. But he just, and I'd been hearing from people that he was difficult. I mean, I was hearing it from people that I knew I could trust, and I was trying to express that to people on the air, and it just was stunning to me. And then a lot of that stuff started coming out, more in a reported sense and newspaper articles and all. And it just, I knew that he wasn't what people thought he was. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I honestly don't know enough to know. But I clearly knew from enough people that Carson was difficult behind the scenes. I knew it. And I also knew that there was a reason the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts. And see, so many people got wrapped up in it being a dumb draft pick, and they didn't examine why did they draft Jalen Hurts.
Right.
And it was so obvious to me, based on what I had heard of Carson's difficulties, based on the injury history, based on the fact that he had played, I think it was 5 snaps in 3 Eagles trips to the playoffs, 5 plays in the playoffs, and based on the fact that we knew the NFL was headed towards 17 games, and based on the fact that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman have extensive history of the Eagles needing to go to a backup quarterback. So many people missed the why of why Hurts was drafted, and it spoke to volumes to me about what they thought of Carson even a year ago.
The only thing I'll say real quick.
That's before he fell apart.
The only thing I'll say real quick, Angel, and I pointed this. This is my own opinion on this. I thought when Frank Reich left, he did not have anybody to turn to in confidence anymore. I thought it destroyed him. I thought that was – and I was never big on Carson Wentz coming out of college anyway. I just didn't think he had the tools. But I thought Frank was that quarterback who was in bad situations, who got thrown, that was able to deal with the kind of personality that he was. And when he went to Indy, it was over. That's just my
No, I agree that it created a pretty seismic shift. I agree with that. But what I consistently came back to was it shouldn't create this seismic of a shift. There's no quarterback I've ever seen that loses a head coach or an offensive coordinator or a quarterback's coach who just completely falls apart. I've just never seen it, ever. So to me, it explains some, but doesn't explain all. And, you know, it's like I got so sick and tired of hearing people talk about, well, Carson's got to clean up his mechanics, and he can. And I'm like, well, then why doesn't he? I mean, I'm going to get going here again. It's like I am so sick and tired of people telling me all he's got to do is clean up the mechanics. Well, then clean them up. I mean, I couldn't take the inaccurate passes with 1 foot pointed this way, 1 foot pointed this way. I couldn't freaking take that anymore.
No, it's true. Bill had, and I'm going to switch over to baseball here real quick, but he says, Hammer, do you think it's possible that in 2017 his MVP play, then gets hurt, Foles takes them to the bowl, they went and ate him up, and he never recovered?
Well, I mean, I think there's something in there. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, you know, how much of a percentage of it is that. I don't know. But do I think that Nick Foles ascending to the heights that he did, you know, kind of shifted the ground beneath Carson's feet and made things uncomfortable for him? I think the answer is yes. Now, the reality is the team gave him the job right back, and they should have. What they should not have done, and I said it at the time, was rush him back from the recovery. I mean, you can make the case that was one of the 2 or 3 biggest mistakes the Eagles made in this whole thing. I mean, you know, that was a 9 to 12 month recovery for a player who's believed to be a Ferrari, who had just played like an MVP the prior year, finished third because he only played 13 games or 12 games, whatever it was, but obviously had an MVP type season, 9 to 12 month recovery. And, you know, he was out there really quick after the 9-month mark. And it struck me that he was rushing back to reclaim his job, in part for the good reasons, the competitiveness. Hey, I want to be out there with my guys. It's a new season, but also sort of to reclaim it from Foles and not let the city kind of, you know, stay attached to Foles and all. I thought it was a huge mistake. I just thought the whole damn thing was poorly handled. I thought that when he was playing, see, John would say when we later learned about the back injury in 2018, John would emphasize the greatness of Carson's stick-to-itness, to play through that injury for however many weeks he played through it. And that is very admirable. There is no question that Carson was an extremely physically tough player. There's no doubt about it. But it was stupid. I mean, it was just stupid. The guy had a freaking back injury. It was affecting his play. It was hurting the team. And he just kept playing. And I thought it was – I wondered in the San Liquido article – when the term selfish was applied by some of Carson's teammates about Carson, I wondered how much of it was specifically that issue that Carson stayed in week after week with a back injury and almost completely sunk the season.
Yep, that's true. So I want to switch it over to when as far as comes to baseball, because I know Bill had another question as well. He says, Hammer with Wheeler, great start and win today, but do you think he is more at number one than Nola?
I wouldn't give him that credit yet. I think he's got a chance to ascend to that role. Some people were sort of sorry, guys, let me just move the camera. Some people were sort of ready to go there after the first week or two of the season, first start or two. And I need to see a little bit more to give that stamp of approval. The reality is it doesn't really matter right now. It really will only matter, honestly, 5 months from now when the playoffs start, if there's a game one and you got to decide who starts. So it's a great thing to not have to really care about it for 5 months. I think that Wheeler has more better stuff in classical pitcher stuff terms, but I also know he's more inconsistent and his career has definitely demonstrated that. So, I'm not too hung up on it yet. I think the fact that the Phillies have an outstanding 1-2 punch is a fantastic thing for Phillies baseball. And clearly it's very evident that when Nola, Wheeler, or Eflin start, for the most part, they win. And when the other two guys start, for the most part, they lose.
Right.
I'd like to speak briefly about that Sunday night crew who has covered a couple of the Phillies games this year. So you go earlier in the season when there was the controversial play at the plate, Phillies in Atlanta with Bohm, and Atlanta throwing all the stuff on the field. And the comment that was made was Philadelphia fans should be used to this. And I know a lot of people were aggravated by that, but go to last Sunday with the controversial home run with Rhys Hoskins against the Mets. Now, I watched that game, and I clearly thought that it was a double watching the replays, but I didn't see anything that was thrown on the field. So what's up with these people in the Sunday night crew? Like, are they hanging on to this Eagles throwing snowballs at Santa for a little bit too long? I would love to hear your opinion on this.
Totally agree. It's a cheap narrative. Look, we've had our share of incidents. We all know it. I think every town has. I don't know how ours stacks up to theirs, numerically speaking. I just know that it's a cheap narrative. People hang on to it. It's not going to go away. It is. I agree with you. It's annoying. I also think it is a clear example, the fact that you brought it up, that Jason Kelce, frankly, was not right. And I love Jason. He's unbelievable. He's a great player. He's a great guy. But when Jason said, we're from Philly and we don't care, the reality is we're from Philly and we do care. I mean, you care. I hear you. You care. I care too. I mean, you were annoyed by those comments. I was annoyed by those comments. I'm annoyed by the narrative. We do care. It's one of those things that gets our ire up when people label us as such, and it annoys me.
It's really a passion that we have. Just think about the other night when Joe Girardi made that lineup snafu with Enio De Los Santos going into the game. And, at the end of the day, there's 26 people on the roster. You're getting paid all this money. Management has a responsibility to get that right. Like, that's just completely unacceptable. He ended up bringing David Hale into the game. One guy gets on base. Second guy gets on base. Third guy gets on base. He's out of the game. JoJo comes into the game, and the game starts to spiral out of control. Fortunately, the Phillies found a way to end up winning that game with a 40-pitch ninth inning from Neris. But it's completely unacceptable when things like that happen. And ultimately, the five of us and you, we have passion for all of the sports. All because we're down on Roman Quinn, we're down on Andrew McCutchen, we're down on Aaron Nola as to whether he's a true ace or not. It's just our passion. We want to see this team win. The Phillies haven't been to the playoffs since 2011. So we just want to see it happen and have some passion.
I totally agree. I just think it's a cheap label, and it bothers me too. And I agree with you. I mean, obviously our passion is unmatched. I think it's fair to say that Boston and New York are similarly wired to us. And I'm proud of being a Philadelphia sports fan, and I'm proud of caring as much as I do about the teams that I love. I mean, I remember the Flyers gave up a goal 98 first round playoff series. It's my sophomore year in college. They gave up the goal at the end of the first period. I think it only made it 1-0. And I put my hand through a window. Now, I didn't kind of intend to. I sort of went like that. I wasn't punching the window, but I was some kind of curse and like that. And I went right through the window pane. So, I mean, I care about these teams. You guys care about these teams. It's the way we are wired in this area. Just
We're
what
Philly.
it is.
We wear our hearts on our sleeves. That's
What
how
it
we're
is.
born and bred in this town.
It's what it is.
That's how it is.
Is Girardi the long-term manager for this Phillies team?
I don't know, but I would tend to think he'll be here for a while. I mean, I as I've been expressing over the last couple of weeks, I've had my concerns about how Girardi's handled some situations. I think, frankly, he's been a disappointment to this point. Just because the Phillies have had a good week doesn't mean to me that he hasn't been a disappointment. I mean, basic facts are, the Phillies didn't make the playoffs last year and the Marlins did. That's not good. I think he's made some in-game blunders that have surprised me. I find him to be pretty light on the players with what he says post-game. I think he makes excuses for them that I don't like. I don't like the fact that Roman Quinn doesn't know how to bunt. And, there's people that say, well, that goes back to the farm system and Matt Klintak and the coaches in the farm system as he came through the farm system over the last 5 years or so. And I think that's true. But I also think Joe Girardi has been the manager of the Phillies for upwards of 15 or 16 months that Roman Quinn's been a Philly, and Roman Quinn still doesn't know how to bunt. I mean, I'm not trying to pick on the guy the week that his hand got, smashed by a ball. He's on the, the IR or DL, whatever that gets called. But I mean, the reality is he doesn't know how to bunt, and that's absurd. And, if I'm Joe Girardi and I'm managing a guy like Roman Quinn who obviously can't really hit very much, I would say to him, listen, man, here's the deal. 250 times every day in the cage, and you're going to learn how to bunt. And if you don't, there's a really good chance you're going to be off the team, and your dream of being a Major League Baseball player could evaporate. So it's your choice. You learn how to bunt, you increase your chances to stick around, or you don't learn how to bunt, and you might be in the minor leagues. It's your choice. And I don't sense that Girardi does that.
Well, the thing of it today, a lot of these young guys don't play fundamental baseball anymore. It's a thing in the past.
It's overrated.
And
so who would you replace for Girardi? If you don't like Girardi, so who do you think would be the best replacement?
I'm not there. I'm absolutely not there. I am not saying to replace him. I haven't even thought of names. Believe me, I'm not saying to fire Joe Girardi. I'm just saying that my antenna is up, that I think to this point he's been disappointing.
If it comes down to it toward the end of the year and the Phillies may be on the cusp of getting a wild card, is the bullpen going to do them in again?
I think it's hard to know without knowing who's injured at that point because I'm sure somebody will be. I think the bullpen's been pretty good. I mean, they obviously hit a rougher patch over the last 7 to 10 days. But not totally unexpected when you consider that there's a couple games without Alvarado. There was the Alvarez situation. You had the COVID outbreak, mini outbreak. You had the what's the guy from Texas? What's his name? Bradley, Archie Bradley being injured. I mean, Bradley's supposed to basically be their main eighth inning guy. I'm very encouraged with the bullpen. I'm not worried about it right now. And I think it's, without knowing where the injuries go, I think it's not the thing that the Phillies will. If the Phillies can only make 1 or 2 moves before trade deadline, and I certainly don't expect them to make 5, I think prioritizing center field and the 4th starter have got to take priority over the bullpen.
One more
Joe, would
thing,
you
and
say-
then, one more thing, and I'll shut up, and then I'll just.
All good.
So
Shut up.
I only have a bathtub waiting for me, and my book on Pedro Martinez. So it's either talk to you guys, watch The Sopranos, or go back to my bathtub and read my Pedro book.
because the season started out so promising. Where in the holy hell do the Flyers go next? Where are they going to go now?
You know, it's a great question, and I've thought about it a little bit. I haven't totally thought it all through. I hate to say it, but I think it's mostly 2 things. The first is most of the guys you just got to bring back and just hope they're better. And obviously Carter Hart's the primary example of that. I mean, there's nothing more important for the Flyers than getting Carter Hart right. I don't know what the heck happened to him this year. I think that let's put it this way. It was a comparable backslide to Wentz's. Isn't going to lead to him being off the team. But it was comparable. I think Wentz's was worse, but it was similar. And I think those 2 are like the 2 biggest backslides in a year I can remember in a long time in Philly sports. So obviously the fundamental thing is to get Carter Hart right, whatever that means. I don't know if that's re-engaged with the sports psychologist or what. I don't know if he was suffering from an injury that we didn't know about. I just don't know. I would tend to think confidence became a big part of it. Got to get him right. But I also think, and the second part is where it gets so tricky. I mean, I am a believer they got to move off of players that they're paying a lot of money to that are still under contract. And you got a guy like Giroux who been a great player, but he's obviously diminished. He's only going to be further diminished, and he's got a no trade clause. So I don't have an answer for that. I mean, my answer is don't give that type of guy no trade clause next time. I don't know.
I mean, Voracek's making a lot of money as well.
Same thing. I mean,
high salaries.
It's just maybe we got a little bit carried away last year. Maybe we got a little bit carried away, not realizing that, look, Carter Hart looked like the real deal. So I don't think we got carried away with that. I think we were legitimately right to be totally psyched as a fan base. But maybe we got a little carried away, not recognizing that the young players, there weren't as many great young players maybe as we thought. And the older players, were only going to get older and decline and really weren't that great. It wasn't like Giroux had a great playoff last year. He really didn't.
Right.
So I hate to say I throw my hands up a little bit on that one, but it's a tricky one. I mean, when no trade clauses are involved, I don't know what to say about that.
No, Rick has a good question. Speaking of, as we're flying back and forth here with the Phillies and the Flyers, but he says, how does everyone feel about MLB pulling the All-Star game out of Atlanta? And since when did baseball become political? So,
I mean, look, that's their choice. I didn't love it, but it's a controversial situation, and I didn't think it was advisable. But a lot of people did. A lot of people didn't. We touched on it. We'll see where it goes. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see to what extent baseball makes similar decisions or doesn't the next time around. I don't know. We'll see.
Yep. Bill says, and Rick, I'll tell you my thoughts here in a second, but he says that Hammer, today's show, you had a question. Who should play center field? Then a caller brings up, how about Harper? What's your thoughts?
So I hadn't even thought about it until the caller said it. I wanted to hug the caller for even suggesting it. I thought it was fantastic. I know social distancing, we're not supposed to, but I was like, dude, what a great idea, man. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know how effective Harper would be in center, but I tend to believe this. If the Phillies' regular center fielders are going to continue to hit whatever they're hitting, which is probably combined below 150, then there's no way they could do worse with Harper in center. You're going to lose some defense,
Right.
And a different right fielder who's got a stick. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that's a better setup. So I think it's something to really consider. I don't think they'll do it next week, but if these guys keep hitting 115, then at some point you gotta really consider it.
Yep, that's
Joe,
true.
how about you getting out there playing center field?
Oh man, listen, man, I'd last 3 innings and I would tear my all my groin again.
You
Yeah.
can't put Harper in center field. He's getting paid so much money for so many years. You need to protect him. And out in the outfield, center field is definitely the most difficult position to play. And the last thing we want is for Harper running to his left, running to his right, trying to track down balls. Listen, he hustles out there, but there's a huge investment that the Phillies made in Harper, and the last thing we need is for him to get injured with a groin or something like that. What is it, 13 years, $330 million? I think he's fine in right field. Unfortunately, center field is an issue right now. Here's the bold prediction that I'm going to make to everybody, and hopefully in a couple months from now when it happens, you can refer back to this show. The person who the Philadelphia Phillies are going to trade is Rhys Hoskins. He's going to get traded at the deadline. They're going to bring in either a number 4 starter, Joe, as you talked about, or bring in a center fielder. Move Alec Boehm to first base, take the pressure on him, take the pressure off of him defensively at third base, and just move Hoskins. That's the prediction I'm going to make.
Who plays third base?
Gene Segura.
Real quick, before you keep going, I got to plug my computer in because it's about to die. So let me get that. Keep talking. I'll be back in 10 seconds.
Sure.
Food, you do that?
Wait. You said
Gene Segura.
Hoskins.
Who's going to play second?
Hoskins for a number 4 starter?
Or a center fielder.
Well, don't most baseball trades work where you just get like a ton of prospects back? Or like I feel like that's a hard trade to conduct, you know? Because you don't normally trade baseball MLB guys for MLB guys.
Go out and pick up Albert Pujols now he's a free agent. See if he has anything in the tank.
And I don't think that tank is dry. I don't think Albert Pujols will be able to come back for. I mean, he could. Don't get me wrong for a team out there, but he's
on him. Why not?
And no, I think he's done for the most part.
What do you think, Joe?
I know he's been hitting like under 200 or something, so I guess he's done. I mean, would I be intrigued to consider signing him as a bat off the bench? I mean, it's freaking Albert Pujols. I guess you got to look at it, but I mean, he's also 40-something years old. I mean,
I'm just being facetious.
Yeah, I guess he's probably done. It's a shame. It's a shame when you see a player that historically great that hangs on that. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of Carlton. I mean, I think there's very few players that have reached that level of greatness in sports that we have seen continue to play to the point where they are so unplayable. Most of the really great ones get out. They might be below average, but they're not like the worst. And it's a shame when you see Pujols or Lefty. I mean, Lefty at the end, with Minnesota, I mean, it was just a complete farce.
All right.
Do you think, Joe, was it – would the Angels feel like it was basically a mistake for having that 10-year contract with them and then never winning a championship with Pujols?
I don't know, man. I'd have to ask their owner. I mean, they haven't even made the playoffs that often.
No.
I don't know. Look, I've had my concerns on the Bryce contract because, it runs through when he's 39, and I know that's younger than what Pujols currently is, but, that you run a risk with that stuff. And, I think that you're going to get tremendously diminished returns at the end. Because remember, I mean, the thing that does make Pujols and Bryce different, I mean, not just that Pujols at his best was certainly way better than Harper, but Pujols was a lot older when he signed his deal.
Right.
That's one thing that does work to Philly's advantage.
Joe, it's stupid money.
Yeah.
In the words of John Middleton.
Well, and again, I mean, this goes to my point about the expansion of the NFL season. I mean, everything that happens every dollar generated is split between the owners and the players.
Exactly.
And it never comes to the fans. It just doesn't. I mean, let's expand the playoffs. Let's expand the playoffs again. Come on. It's just, I mean, like, for instance, guys.
As a fan, aren't you feeding him the money?
I'm sorry, say again?
You just, as a fan, you're paying them. You're feeding them that. So, like, the only way you're not gonna, all of them. If they expand the playoff because they know you're gonna watch it, and they're gonna make more money because they know you're gonna watch it. So that's why the 17th game, I believe.
I agree with you. I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, they have us in their hand, and look, guys, we love sports. I mean, the 6 of us are here talking sports tonight. That's it's what we're wired to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think where I object sometimes is I find it disingenuous, the way it's presented sometimes. I guess I would rather a league just say sometimes, let me tell you why we just expanded. We just expanded to make a lot more money, and we're going to split it up amongst ourselves, and we're not giving you any of it. And I'd say, okay, well, they just looked me in the face and told me the truth. But instead, as a for instance, and I think there is no bigger sham right now in sports than this. Instead, you get the NBA that has this ridiculous play-in tournament. It's not a play-in tournament. Right. It's the expansion of the NBA playoffs. That's what it is. They expanded the playoffs. They just don't want to tell you they expanded the playoffs because they don't want to tell you that a 10th seed can make the playoffs after a 72 or 82 game regular season because they know they look ridiculous. But all they did was expand the playoffs. That's what it is. It's the playoffs. So it just annoys me when things are couched a certain way because it's totally bogus.
Joe, you remind me of Jim Moore going off in the playoffs with the Colts. Just one way he kept saying playoffs. We can't even win a game.
Yeah, I loved Moore, man.
I wanted to get this in real quick, and just before the other guys start asking more questions again here. I was speaking with our boy Martinez today, and I brought up because it was hilarious, and he told me to ask you about it. Do you remember the prank call that he did ordering Chinese food when you were? Yeah, he's like, ask him about it. He's like, he thought it was hilarious.
So for years, people have been giving me, friends in the industry and outside the industry, have been giving me a hard time for years. Apparently, when I order food, I'm sort of Meg Ryan-like from Harry Met Sally. Look, my thing is very simple. When I order food, I want what I want. I want exactly what I want. I don't want anything outside of what I want, and I want exactly what I want. So I'm going to be extremely clear in describing what I want. And that has led to some confusion sometimes, and certainly some absurd moments on the phone. So yeah, Jason pretty
well. 90% of what he was saying was, "Hi, I'm Joe DeCamara. It's great to be with you. It's great to be ordering with you." Yeah, and that's all he was saying. Like 90% of the phone call.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, it was good stuff.
Yeah, he told me to ask you about it.
Yep.
There's two things before we go over to a quick segment with Safe by the Bell here. But Bill says, hey, Hammer, in your honest opinion, give the years for all 4 teams when the championships are coming back to Philly.
There's no way for me to predict that. I'm going to decline, and I'm going to tell you why. To me, that's the same thing as saying, and I freaking hate it. I hate it. Every damn Sunday or Friday before a Sunday football game, a sports talk show host, a person on TV is expected to tell you the score of the Eagles game versus the Giants. And every Sunday, people come up with the same nonsense, 23-17, 24-17, 28-24, 31-28. It's stupid. It's absurd. It holds no relevancy. So I kind of feel that same way on this one. I'm not trying to be rude. I'll just say the team closest, obviously, is the Sixers. I do think they have a shot to get it done. Not this year. I mean, they have a shot this year. I don't think they will. I think the hope is that as LeBron, comes down, the Sixers can be well positioned with Ben or without. We'll have to see.
Right.
So I think, and then beyond that, who the heck knows? But the Sixers obviously have the best shot. As far as years, what's the point of predicting? I mean, what do you want me to tell you? You want me to tell you when the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup? I have no clue. 2029? I mean, I have no idea.
It's going to be a while for sure. But listen, once again, we'd like to thank Joe DeCamara, who co-hosts the show and or hosts the show along with John Ritchie, 94 WIP. If you guys want to listen in, you can also listen to the Audacity app and look for 94 WIP with Joe and John, the Midday Show. And again, as we said in the very beginning, I defy anyone to find a better show. And I'm not talking about just in Philly. I'm talking nationally. 10 to 2, that hours are locked. 94 WIP with Joe, John, and James behind the glass there. So, John, Joe, thank you so much again for coming on. One thing that, of course, our sports contributor thought, because we know you're such a fanatic when it comes to movies and TV shows, and people like to hint all kinds of movies. So we have some questions here, and I see that there's 2 more comments coming in by you guys. So I'll get to that here, Joey. But there's a couple of comments, or at least a couple of questions that we figured that we can just shoot your way and see what happens. So this is a combination between myself and Sherman. So Sherman, if you want to unmute your mic, because I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to chime in here. So the first question would be, we're going to start off real simple. Who was the actor who played Mr. Belding?
So I didn't do any research. You told me off air that you wanted to throw some Saved by the Bell questions at me. So let me think for a second here. I believe his name, and I know he's good friends with Barkley. I believe his name is Dennis Haskins.
You are correct, sir.
Okay.
Good job by you also.
I mean, believe me, in 1993, I could have probably gotten all of these. Right now, this is going to be tricky. All right, what's the next one?
All right. Now, do you also know, just as a bonus question here, an actual video that he was on and the name of the band that he was in the video with? And Sherman, the same question we posted for you as well as a bonus question.
I do not.
I don't. I know. Yeah, I know he's popped up a few times through the years, but I don't know a specific video.
All right. Well, then I'm going to hear where I won't get into too much trouble with YouTube, but here is the one. It's Dirty Heads.
Hey, I'm on vacation every single day because I love my occupation. Hey, I'm on vacation. If you don't like your life, then you should go and change it. Hey, I'm on vacation every single day because I love my occupation. Hey, I'm on vacation every single day. Every single day.
Now, if you get a chance, go back and watch that video. I tell you what, Joey, it was a good video. Matter of fact, when I left from Philly some years ago here, about 3 years ago, I actually played that. So my partner that I worked with over at SEPTA, he never heard the song before, and we used to goof around all the time. And every Friday, I would play it in the speakers that we had inside of our office. And it was every single Friday. Angel, why do you play that? Because I'm going on vacation. You guys don't believe me? I am. Well, I'm on vacation. Because living here in Florida, it's like being on vacation every single day. So, but Dirty Heads was the name of that group. The next one here is, why did Zach make a video for a dating service?
Why did he make a video for a dating service?
Yep.
I guess to get a date. I don't know.
Sherman?
Why did Zach make a video dating service?
Yep.
Oh, wow. That's a
Wait, I thought you said for a dating service.
Nope, sorry. Why did Zach make a video of a dating service?
Why did Zach make a video dating service?
Yeah.
Oh, so he created the dating service.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's different. I gotcha. To make $1?
Maybe very, very close. Sherman?
As I recall, he basically wanted to pimp out the ladies of Bayside and the boys of Bayside, and I believe that Zach got pretty jealous when all the suitable bachelors started hitting on Kelly Kapowski.
All right. Well, I will tell you this much. Joe was a little bit closer because he actually wanted to do it to buy a car. So actually that one, yeah, Joe's a little bit closer on that one. So I will go right now, 2 for the Hammer, none for Sherman here, but it's okay. It
For
happens.
Screech.
Sherman said pimp out. That's what made me.
But it's a good one though. Identify the name of the actress who plays Kelly Kapowski.
Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
Yep, that was her. And this
Brian,
one,
One of my all-time favorites.
yeah, and she's got, matter of fact, selfish plug, I guess, for MTV. She's got a show now. It's called Deliciousness, and her and a couple other people, they watch videos of people and the food that they make. And so if you guys want to see Tiffany Amber Thiessen, what she looks like today, I believe, matter of fact, I think it was tonight that the show was on. But the other question was, in Jesse's song episode, Kelly, Jesse, and Lisa are part of a singing girl group. What is the name of the group?
No clue.
Sherman?
Well, I'm the one who wrote this question, so I'm going to have to know it because it's Hot Sunday.
All right, listen.
It's Hot Sunday. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so scared.
So, hey, 2-1. And, we still got a chance here. So in the Save the Max episode, the gang puts radio station KKTY back on the air. Which member of the group quits because everyone thinks that this person is a bad host?
I'll say Lisa Turtle.
Ooh, well, Sherman, and you did not write this question, Sherman. So, but what is the answer to this one? Because I'm pretty sure you know it because you look like you're just chomping at the bit here.
That would be that AC Slater who was doing sports and was very choppy with his reading.
All right, listen, 2-2 here. So last question, which would be interesting, is a tiebreaker. So in the 1-900 Crushed episode, what is the name that Zach uses when giving relationship advice to his fellow teens?
Well, first of all, I got to take a time out so I can go look it up.
Okay.
Look it up.
Sure. Go look it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did away with the timeouts at a certain point as it got further in the years.
I'll give you a hint. There's an energy drink named almost after it. And I'm not talking about the most popular one either, not Red Bull. Think of something that goes pretty fast.
There's an American Gladiator who had the same name.
Viper? I don't know.
No, not quite. But if you can put something in a cylinder to make the car go faster, you push a button and it's
I don't know. You tell me.
Wow.
Nitrous oxide.
There you go.
There you go.
So that was the answer. Nitro. So hey, listen, it's okay. The first time I think in a long time someone could say they actually end up being Hammer. Oh, and I saw a couple of people made the comments here. Joey, Pimp Dot Saved by the Bell, just she got it.
It's been a long time since we watched Saved by the Bell. I do have I have a bonus question for you guys.
Okay.
What member of the Philadelphia sports media had a sister on American Gladiators?
Ooh,
sister.
Still active today? Like still on radio? Or somebody retired?
Still active Philadelphia sports media member. A current Philadelphia sports media member.
Wow.
You guys have a guess?
It's not Eskin because I don't think Eskin, not that I know of, but I could be wrong.
Wow.
I only know one, so I'm going to guess Greg Murphy, but I'm assuming that's probably wrong.
It's not Murphy.
I wonder if it.
Is it WIP?
Maybe it's his co-host.
It's not Richie.
John Ritchie.
My guess would be Rhea Hughes. Think about American Gladiators, which was about 30 years ago, and thinking that, was not Rhea Hughes. That
not Rhea.
Vince Quinn.
It's not Vince. It's somebody who played in the NFL.
What? Between John Ritchie,
Michael Pitt,
Mike Reese,
Baldy.
Oh, well.
Didn't one of you guys see Brian Baldinger?
Yeah, I was like Brian. I was like, there's Richie, there's Baldinger.
Yeah, Baldy. Baldy's sister was one of the American Gladiators.
Oh, who knew that? Wow, pretty surprising. Hey, listen, you can't say you don't learn something new every day, but it's very interesting, at least to say the least. But listen, Joe, I know you're dying to get to your bathtub and your
Nah, it's all
books
good.
and your movies.
Sopranos. What
Yeah,
episode? You on?
exactly.
Midnight Run, a classic.
I'm on episode season 3, I think episode 8.
Did you see the Pine Barrens?
It's right before
I think
I think Pine Barrens is around 10 that year, something like that.
Yeah, I know it was like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched Breaking Bad?
Yeah, I loved it. Tremendous. I got it as tier 2. To me,
Right.
tier 1 is Sopranos, Wire, and Game of Thrones. I got Breaking Bad at the top of tier 2. That's me. I know a lot of people put Breaking Bad tier 1. It is outstanding. It is really, really outstanding.
But now, have you seen the spinoff one, the Better Call Saul?
No, I've thought about it. Maybe I'll get there. I'm watching, I think, 7 different shows right now. I've definitely been off more than I can chew. It's getting ridiculous. Right now, I'm doing Sopranos for the 3rd time. I'm doing Cheers. I'm doing The Crown, which is freaking good. I'm doing something called Atlanta Crossing, which is outstanding. I'm doing The Undoing, which is weird, and I might jump out of it. I'm watching Good Times, and I'm watching
Wait.
and there's one other one in there. I forget.
Frasier.
No, well, if that's the case, then you end up I'm pretty sure you watched Cheers.
Oh yeah. No, I mean I saw all the Cheers back in the day, and then I watched all of it first time, like all the way through about 3 years ago. But I mean, I'd seen every episode, and now I'm doing it again. I've been doing
What about
it. Huh?
Rescue Me? Rescue Me. Have you
I don't
seen
know
all the
that one.
seasons of Rescue Me?
I
What a
don't know.
great show. What a fantastic show.
But Good Times, kind of surprised. You didn't see Good Times when you were growing up?
No, I've seen it. I mean, I saw it a ton, but I never did all the way through. So
Oh, okay. I got you.
yeah. Like I went back and during the pandemic, I did Family Ties all the way through, and I'd probably seen most of them back in the day. But it's fun to kind of go back and do them all the way through.
But there's tons of good shows. Netflix right now. One I got into, it was Queen of the South. I don't know if you want to add that to the list. It's pretty good. It's only 2 seasons, so it's not really long, and I think they're about 35 minutes a piece as far as when it comes to the episode. So that's if there's one you want to watch further into your catalog, that's one of the good ones you can watch from Netflix is Queen of the South. So free plug, I guess, there for Netflix. One thing I do want to say, I should have maybe asked much earlier, how did you get into radio, Joe, and what made you I know we all love sports, just like you said earlier, but what made you, as you went on with your career and going from a young man to an adult, to actually get you in the radio?
Well, I made that transition when I was young. And look, I mean, it's a long story, but the short of it is that I was really unhappy my first year out of college. I was really miserable. I really couldn't stand what I was doing, which was working for a financial institution in New York. It was kind of job that would be considered like a good first job out of college, but it didn't mean that I liked it. It didn't mean that I felt like I was good at it. Certainly didn't think I wanted to continue with that line moving forward. So I had to kind of, challenge myself to figure out, well, I know I don't want to do this, but what do I want to do? And so it took a lot of time thinking and just trying to really sort of figure out, what do I enjoy in life? What do I think I'm good at? Trying to kind of figure out characteristics about myself and try to create something. And, that was a process over many months when I was 23 years old. And, the 2 things I kept coming back to were my love of sports and what I thought was a strength in communicating. And I thought, if I can ever sort of create something around sports and communication skills, I think that would be good, but of course I didn't know what to do with that. I mean, what the heck does that mean? It's just 2 words. It's sports and communicating. It's not a job. It's certainly not a career. And, so I talked to a lot of audults, around me, aunts and uncles and my mom and just a lot of people and just trying to get feedback. And I happened to talk to one friend who's an older guy, and he told me he knew Merrill Reese, and he told me he'd be happy to put me in touch with Merrill. And of course, I was thinking in terms of, well, that's tremendous, and maybe that can lead to something with the Eagles. And but what I did not know is that Merrill owned and still does own a radio station in Bucks County. And
Really?
so I bought a cell phone. That was the first cell phone I ever had, so that I could call Merrill, got his machine, and then field his phone call back. And I purchased a cell phone so that if Merrill called me, I could see it at my desk in New York. So this was 2000. And so Merrill and I talked, and he told me that my buddy that was friends with him, just had nice things to say about me, and so he told me he wanted me to come down for an interview, for an internship, and that's what I did shortly thereafter, and I started there, and I was an unpaid intern for some time, and made very, 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 very little money for a long time.
Right.
But I moved home, and I just made the decision that I wanted to go for it with everything I could, and just really commit myself to it. And so it's been a incredibly fun journey, very difficult, very, very difficult in the early years. It's not that different, I don't think, than sort of the, hey, I want to go be a movie star out in LA thing. I mean, you're going to have so many more people than you have spots at the table. And it's just really, it's a tough industry to kind of crack through. But, I feel really fortunate to, have, made a lot of friends, and, you guys asking me to come on your show. I appreciate that. And I just, it's been a fun journey, and there's a lot of other aspects of it and twists and turns, but it all started back then in 2000 and in 2001, and leaving my job in New York to basically chase the dream. And I just said, I'm moving home, and I'm going to go 5,000 miles an hour after it, and I'm going to put everything I can into it. And that's what I've done.
Joe, did you start at 97.5 since their inception?
I was there in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that's what I thought.
Yeah. Yep. But Merrill was instrumental in my. I mean, without Merrill, I don't think I'd be on WIP. And there's a lot of luck involved, and timing, and you got to be willing to I think take certain risks at certain times, and I think there's times where you got to just suck it up. And I've always, I talk to a lot of students, I get asked to go to schools and stuff and speak from time to time. And, one of my big messages, certainly about this industry, but I would imagine to a certain extent it applies to most, if not all industries, is, the combination of what seems like sort of opposites, persistence and patience. You got to really go pedal to the metal to try to, go for what you want and get after it. But you also have to be willing to,
He'll come back. May have froze up.
Incredible story. I greatly appreciate it as a student myself. So hopefully he can come back and finish, because I am very curious to hear what he has to say.
He'll probably come back. Either it's frozen or something else ended up accidentally happening. But
it's like I said to Fuji, persistence breaks down resistance, but in this business, you have to be patient, because it will not happen overnight.
Nope, sure won't. That's the one.
Just like anything.
Yeah, that's the one thing for sure. And I'll get back to your comment here, Ryan, in a second, because Ducky says, does anyone watch All American? That's a great series.
Great show.
Series. Yeah, really good series. Anybody gets a chance. And Ducky, I think you told me as well, it was 4 seasons, Queen of the South. He'll come back. I'm pretty sure he'll sign back in. Joey B says, well, in Sedneff, and there was I know you had a bunch of them in there, Joey B, so don't feel bad, because I know you had a bunch of other funnier comments in there, and as we're trying to get the show going along. Was there one? Where was it? I know you said it was 100% attendance. It was, matter of fact,
what's with the hats?
Well, as Joey said it earlier, it's like changing quarterbacks.
What do you think, you're Frank Sinatra?
No, it's
a new segment. The many hats of Neff.
Exactly.
Look like Sean Connery a little bit with that. on there. Just trim the beard down a little.
What are you trying to say, Fuji? You're saying I look like Sean Connery now.
Sure. Listen, Joey, we love you back. Rick, all those guys. I mean, Ducky, I mean, you name it. Oh, Ducky, you did have a question. Sorry, I want to get back to Ducky here momentarily as we wait for
that's the
for
Ducky.
him to get back on.
That's the Ducky.
There he is.
That's the duck. That's the duck man.
Was that Nick?
There he is. There he is. There he is.
Was that on my end or your end?
That was on your end.
If you had to go heat up the bath water, you should have just let us know.
I don't know what that was. But anyway, I'm sorry that happened. But so bottom line is just kind of going after it, and I'm really happy that I did.
What I will
And
say,
thankful to a lot of people that helped me along the way. I mean, that's there's a lot of other parts of that story, but I've met some really special people.
when there was a couple of guys came in, says Joey B says great story right there. Joe D paid his bills. Paid his dues, sorry, not his bills. Pardon me. Joe, interested in hearing your journey. And Joey B says that's Clemson University. That's for Nick there. But Joe, no, you're exactly right. Listen, we love to have. We've been able to find our own little niche here. We normally about an hour and a half before the Eagles game we're on. So we compete with the likes of obviously WIP, the Fanatic, ESPN, everybody. And we enjoy we've been fortunate as after the middle part of the year, we started getting from 800 to 900 live views, which was a lot of fun, at least for us. And we've been growing. I mean, you can't master this craft overnight. Ryan says it like all the time. And, and we also appreciate everyone who's come on, those who've helped us along the way, because it goes far. I mean, for me, it was a dream that started 10 years ago. I wasn't able to fulfill it then, but I'm able to fulfill it now. And hopefully it will go places. And if it wasn't for you, Tony Bruno, Derek Gunn, Greg Murphy's been on, and Derek Gunn twice with us. And if it wasn't for those guys, Jimmy, my brother, if it's not for them, this doesn't happen. And we appreciate having you on, especially because it's what are the odds that you're a fan of someone who's on radio, and then you have the opportunity of not still being that fan, but now interviewing one of the bigger people on radio. And I know you don't boast or brag about yourself, Joe, but again, it's the amazing job that you guys do. And it's when you can have the worst game possible, guaranteed Monday morning, right after that game, or if they play Monday night, Tuesday morning. I mean, you guys bring out the best of the worst that can happen the day before. So listen, thanks to you and just taking that chance on yourself and coming on the Philly market. Because I don't think, honest to God, and I know WIP went through the growing pains and now they've been successful. John Marks that follows after you guys. I mean, another guy from the Fanatic. And if you look even the journey from, good Lord, and I'm going to forget his name here, Sean Brace. If you take a look at Sean after he was let go on April Fool's Day from the Fanatic and what he's done to date, it's pretty amazing what all you guys have done. The changes, everything that's happened, the changes you guys even knew to radio today. It's amazing. So it's, me personally, I'm pretty sure the guys are the same way too. All of us, we're proud of what you guys have done. We really appreciate you guys being on air, and hopefully you guys will never go away. I mean, it's, if Howard Stern could do it for, 100 years, I'm pretty sure you guys can do it as well, barring anything that happens. But hey,
guys, I appreciate it. I really do. I wish you all the luck in the world with what you're doing. I know sort of what you're doing. Like I live that, and I think it's great what you're doing, and I appreciate the kind words. I remember when I was on that station in Bucks County, I was talking about when Phil Jasner came on my show, and that was for me, that was amazing, and so I just try to stay involved and connected to people, and I appreciate all the kind words. I really do.
We appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. So
All
Joe,
right, well, when I see you down at the ballpark or one of the stadiums, grab me, and it's all good stuff, man. And good luck, and keep it rolling. And thanks for having me on your show tonight, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, fellas.
you're right.
Have a good one.
See you guys.
Take care.
Hey, Joe. Listen to everybody. I want to put them in the room there. So listen, thanks to everyone. Thanks to, and who knew we were going to have so much bonus time with Joe. So Joe, thank you so much for coming on. We really do appreciate it. Again, much success to the WIP crew, especially my brother Jimmy Seltzer, who puts it all together. So thanks to everyone watching tonight as we had bonus show that we weren't expecting. So listen, this is what happens. I'm going to bring back the comment here that Bill just made a second ago. He said, Broad Street South Angel, you're awesome with a great set of characters. Great job. And again, it started with just a dream. And then Vito comes along and he was following me during the updates. And I knew that if I was going to start with somebody, it was going to be with Vito. And I've said the story before as I'm losing my voice here. It's been a long day. But if it wasn't for Vito just taking the ride with me, and then Sherman, who started with comments just like Ryan Neff, the same thing. And Sherman and I, we've started building that relationship just like one step, one layer of cement at a time. And now the walls are going up, and the good walls, not bad walls, not like when you have a bad relationship, but the good walls are going up. And I'm fortunate to be with these guys. Ryan Neff, who came on board, Nick Lisi, who I got to meet down there in Tampa, who was interested as far as when I did the interview with Jabari. To this day, by the way, Nick, I still talk to Jabari just about every single day.
Yeah.
And his co-host hopefully will come on very shortly, who came from Cleveland, huge Browns fan. So it'd be great to see another host coming on from Tampa Brightside. And along with that, next week, of course, we have on Seth Joyner. That's pretty exciting. Again, I'll mention with Carlos Vega for May 18th. Make sure you guys go out and vote. Today is the 6th. So you get about 12 days away from making a change in Philly. There's also another one as well that I want to mention. 101.5. Soon to have them on as well here at the Tampa local radio station. So there's a lot of stuff that is coming up here. But again, these group of guys, this nucleus right here, if I can put this in a time capsule and hope that in the future we can continue to love, grow, and have passion for each other and passion for the fans, it's going to be absolutely fantastic because every single one of these guys brings something to the table. And I'm grateful and thankful to have this crew. And it's not because we're here on there. I say it all the time. And without them, this show is not successful without this whole entire group. So, and Nick knows it. Nick is our youngest of the group. We know that at one point some great company is going to pick him up, but we hope that Nick, he knows he always has a seat in the house, front row seats, no matter what happens. So, Nick, we really appreciate you. We appreciate the articles. Ryan, as our NASCAR correspondent, we still got NASCAR to go. We got more other sports to go. College next year is going to be crazy now, especially with Nick being on board. So a lot of things are going to happen, folks. Thank you guys for always watching. Thank you for actually going to BroadStreetSouth.com, downloading the audio podcast. We are 98th in the country, believe it or not, in under sports podcasts, and we couldn't do it without you guys. And we hope that one day there will be number one as your audio source for everything sports related and even life, sports, and entertainment as we're known around here. So,
preach.
Yeah, Bill says, can't wait. We also maybe doors open for other players to come on. We're hoping so. Listen, we're hoping. As Green Legion Radio, man. In fact, Chris Sack, who came on with us. So he's going to try and get that group to come on as well. And again, we know the football season is coming around the corner. It is our first ever off season away from football, and we've made it successful all the way through May. So we only got 2 more months left before we kick off the football season all over again. So it's been a lot of fun. We know that Sherman makes a lot of sacrifices because he is a teacher, but he takes a moment and puts the pen down to come on with us. So Sherman, listen, thank you. Also, thank you for showing the video again. And I want to mention one more time, because we said it on Tuesday on the audio podcast. If you guys want to see a great show, and this is where I will use my pen, because that man right below me, if you guys want to hear Frank Sinatra, Sherman, tell them where they can go so you can hear Old Blue Eyes all over again.
If anybody wants to look me up on Facebook under Michael Sherman, or look my wife up, Barbara Burke Sherman, we did a 9-song performance for her online business, Burke'sBoutique.com, this past Sunday night. We sang some Broadway. We sang some Frank Sinatra. It was absolutely fantastic. So definitely check it out. And what I'm going to say to the fans, for everybody who is still with us or who watches this in replay, find one friend, find one enemy, find one family member, and ask them to go to our page, like the page, follow the page, and share the page. Start with one. Start with one, because that's the way that we're going to grow. Thank you so much for all the support. We genuinely appreciate it.
Yep.
Since episode 1, it's like I said, this is the People Show. Without everybody tuning in, friends, family, acquaintances, thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate you following us, and we're going to the top. May 5th. May take 3 years, may take 5, but we're going there.
No, now we are, believe me. And we can do it with whomever it is, whether it's Lifestyle Media, we end up making our own network. God knows. I mean, the only man that knows is that man upstairs. So we hope
Absolutely.
we hope with the will of God that we'll get anything done. If we waited 10 years, if I made, this 10-year dream come true, I'm pretty sure the only place that we can go is nothing but up. And that just takes baby steps to get there. But again, I couldn't do it with this crew right here. We know that Nick pretty soon is going to be starting a new job coming up for the summer. So Nick's going to get really busy. Again, you guys make sure you also check out the articles on BroadStreetSouth.com that Nick has put out there. Fantastic articles. And anyone, by the way, who's into analytics, look at the one from the Denver Nuggets. What an outstanding job that young Nick did. So by all means, and by the way, any company, I'm talking about Major League, NFL, NBA, you name it. If anyone's looking for someone who has that analytical power, right here, that guy that's right there, right next to me. So Nick, awesome job, and thank your parents, because believe me, it takes a lot to be just as a young professional as you are, and that comes from the home. So thank mom and dad from all of us for what you do.
I will.
You got Gary Payton on the back of that jersey.
Shirt, I wish. It's just a shirt. No, it's just a Supersonic shirt.
Nice throwback.
Yeah, nice
Just
throwback.
the way I like it, the old school.
That's right.
Vintage.
That's right. That's right. Well, this was a great show tonight. I enjoyed getting to talk to Joe. Had some great answers. Had some good length to his answers too, which you would love to hear from a guest. Don't forget, we got to shout out our boys, Fans of Philly, for sponsoring our trips. Maybe a Vegas trip's coming up soon.
6 days of the NFL and Eagles schedule.
And unfortunately, I don't remember the phone number, so I'm going to lean to Angel to complete that for me.
That would be 610-517-7171, 610-517-7171. And also reach out to Joe at fansofphilly.com for your Travel Like a Champion ticket to New York or Boston with the Phillies. And of course, we're looking forward to Denver, Atlanta, and Vegas, which we believe Vegas will be the biggest one. So again, fansofphilly.com, we thank you guys so much. Ducky, that's the one I did want to bring, so thank you for bringing it back up. So Ducky says that he has an event for next summer. It's the first annual Father's Day NFC versus AFC flag football game. And I did see, Ducky, and the other comment, I was trying to find it earlier. If I would televise from there, let me know the date, let me know what's going on, and I'll see I'll make the travel arrangements down there so we can have a live show for your event. So let me know when that goes on. And David says Sean Kemp.
Sean Kemp.
Yeah, pretty sure. By the way, Sean Kemp, that guy has like this many kids, and Lord Almighty, broke as a joke.
It happens. It happens to the best of us.
Sure does. Just saying. So, listen, thank you to everyone who tuned in. We do appreciate, again, fansofphilly.com. Everyone else, again, next Thursday, we will have on Seth Joyner on with us on Thursday. And next Tuesday, we don't have a guest that I know of. At least it'll be us, at least for the moment, on the Tuesday night for Behind the Podcast show. And that goes on Wednesday. Dougie says, okay, I'm working on getting the permit. Thank you. Schedule comes out next Wednesday according to Bill. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you everyone on Instagram who watched the show tonight as well, along with Twitch, Twitter, and everywhere else. For Ryan F., Nick Lisi, Vito Corleone, and the Drew, thank you guys and girls for watching. We will see you all next week.